It's probably easier to fit the drives first, so I'm going to start by putting on my wrist strap, making sure it's properly adjusted, and clipping myself onto a bare part of the chassis. So the first drive I want to fit is the DVD writer. This is an IDE device, so I need an IDE cable and a power cable. We'll fit them later. Pick an appropriate slot for it. Slide the drive in so that the front is flush, and so I can see the screw holes lining up with the chassis. While it's in place just out, I'm going to put 2 screws in to hold it there. Remember, the CD-ROM drive takes the fine threaded screw, not the coarse thread that's used for everything else. So 2 screws like that to hold the drive in place. It's best to just lightly tighten up the screws until you get them both in. And before you tighten up, just make sure that the drive is properly flush, and then tighten up the screws. Okay, that's the CD-ROM drive in place. Next we're going to go for the hard disk drive. Remember, the hard disk drive is very delicate, so it's in a padded bag, not just an anti-static but also padded. We'll try to handle the hard disk drive by the edges of the case and not touch the motherboard or the connectors at the end. Now, we have various places where we can fit the hard disk drive, and it can go in any of them, but it makes sense to keep the hard disk drive away from the location for the graphics card on the motherboard. Notice this slot here on the motherboard is going to take our graphics card, and the graphics card extends back to about here. So if I put the hard disk drive in that position, it would fill the graphics card. So I'm going to choose a lower position to fit the hard disk drive. Now, the hard disk drive sits quite far back because the mounting holes here don't need the hard disk drive to come out to the front. After all, it's an internal only drive. So it sits a little bit further back than other drives. I'm going to put a couple of mounting screws now to keep that in place. Right, that's nice and secure. Now, before we go any further, I need to put the screws in the other side of the drive. So I'm going to tip the case up to give me access to the back of the CD-ROM drive and the hard disk drive. Let's tip it right over, that might make it easier. Remember the coarse threaded screws for the hard disk drive. That's the hard disk drive down at the bottom. And now 2 finer screws for the CD-ROM drive at the top.